My name is Francis, and if you're new to this channel, consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell because I post a new video every single day. If you want to become a private client, then consider applying for a free consultation by hitting the website that's in the description box of this video. I also wanted to announce that my mindfulness group coaching program is now open. So if you want to be part of the class, hit the link that's in the description box of this video because the class is starting very soon, and once it starts, I'm closing off enrollment. In this video, what I wanted to share with you is how to shift your identity and actually become the person that you're meant to become. How do you live into your vision and shift your reality into that version of you that you want to actually be? Because most people don't know how to shift their identity, which is where the true change actually comes. The best changes that you'll ever make in your life, in terms of stepping up to that next level, living into your vision, is about shifting who you are at an identity level. Okay, that's the key here. If you want to become a new person, if you want to live into your vision, the key here is to understand that you have to shift who you are at an identity level. Okay, so if you want to become a confident person, you have to let go of that identity of being a shy person. But then the next step here is to realize that actually both of these are just identities, but to tap into either of them, you have to first see that they're both made up human constructs. Okay, both of these are made up constructs and they're not actually who you are. So when it comes to becoming who you're meant to be and shifting your identity, you have to first become conscious of the current identity that you currently have. You have to become conscious of the current story that's playing in your head. Because we'll have a story about something that we tell ourselves about who we think we are. We have this story that we attach to. Whether that means we're not a confident person, whether that means we have a lack of self-worth, whether that means we can only make a certain amount of money per year. But this story is not actually who you are. This story is literally a human construct, and it's attached to your ego identity, the conditioning of your experiences that you've been through. And this story, most of the time, is completely unconscious. So we don't even realize that we have this story. We're not even conscious of the fact that we have this story playing in our head that is controlling our reality. And so when it comes to the law of attraction and fully living into your vision, most people aren't even conscious of the fact that if you want to use the law of attraction, if you want to get full power out of things like affirmations and subliminals, then it's not just about telling yourself certain things and thinking certain thoughts and trying to generate certain feelings and take certain actions. That is part of law of attraction. In fact, that's pretty much most of what it is. But the thing that people don't see is that if you want to rewrite your story and shift your identity into a new person, you have to first become conscious of the current story and then let it go. Because that's the key here. If you want to rewrite your story and become somebody new, you have to first become conscious of the current story and let it go, because that story is usually involving some kind of a past experience, some kind of conditioning that you've been through. Okay, because here's the thing. A lot of us are unconsciously absorbed in the thinking mind without even realizing it. We don't even know that we're unconsciously attached in the thinking. We're projecting into the future, we're projecting into the past, and we are not connected to this present moment. And it's creating a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and a lot of worry, and it's connected to that story that you tell yourself. Okay, Eckhart Tolle calls this part of your unconscious mind the ego. Okay, the ego is just a word to represent unconsciously being absorbed in the thinking mind. So much to the point that you don't even have awareness of the fact that you're absorbed in your mind. So not only are you overthinking, not only do you have way too many thoughts that are compulsively thinking about things that have nothing to do with the moment, but most people aren't even conscious of the fact that they are happening. They don't even have conscious awareness. And this goes much deeper than just shifting your identity. This is about empowering yourself and becoming who you're meant to be from a place of empowerment and no suffering necessary, no resistance to the present moment. But when you start to awaken to the fact that there's a story in your head, not only will you be able to shift your identity into who you're meant to become, but you're going to start removing a lot of suffering in your life because you create spaciousness between you and your thoughts. And they're going to start to slow down. You're going to become more present to the moment, and you're going to start to get more into a flow state, and your life is going to become a lot easier because you've raised your level of consciousness to the point where you can be deeply connected to the present moment and you're not attached to the story anymore. When you can disattach to the story, develop that awareness, create that spaciousness between you and your thoughts, who you think you are and who you actually are, which is just awareness of thoughts, which is just consciousness of thoughts, not actually the thoughts. And this goes much deeper than thoughts. This is about every feeling and experience that you have in life. You realize that you are not the experiencer, but there is just the witness of experience itself. And when you start to realize this, then you can shift your identity into who you actually want to become. But you have to first become conscious of the current story that you tell yourself about who you think you are, because who you think you are is not actually who you are. Who you think you are is not actually who you are. It's a concept, it's a human construct, and usually who you think you are is unconsciously happening. Because if you were conscious of it, if you had conscious awareness, you would realize that you are actually not who you think you are. You would realize that a thought that's telling you that you're not worthy is just a thought form. It's just a thought form. That's all it is. It's just a thought form. It has nothing to do with who you are, but when you're unconscious of it, you believe it's who you are. That thought has a pull. You get absorbed into that thought. Because when you don't have conscious awareness of that thought, it becomes who you are. Rather than just having spaciousness, being, okay, here I am, and here's the thought about who I think I am, you literally become that thought. There's no separation, so to speak, between the awareness and the thoughts. And in that state of having a lack of awareness, you literally become your thoughts and you're attached to a false sense of self, a false sense of identity that has nothing to do with who you are. And as long as you are attached to that story, that identity, and you don't have that spaciousness between you and your thoughts, you're never going to be able to become that person that you want because you're still attached to that story of who you think you are. The only way to truly step into your power and become who you're meant to be on this planet is to become conscious of your story and raise your level of awareness and let go of the story that's not allowing the new vision to come into place naturally. Because you already have a vision. You already know what you want to create. You probably already have dreams in your mind, and you probably already have a successful version of yourself that you imagined in your head. But the only thing blocking you from getting there is the current story that you're unconsciously attached to. This is why affirmations will never work unless you first become conscious of the things that are not allowing that version of yourself to come in naturally. So if you're telling yourself, I am abundant, I am abundant, I am abundant, well, what's happening instead of that thought? If you're trying to change your thoughts to think that you're abundant, well, what are the thoughts that are not allowing you to think abundant? That's what you should be focusing on. You should be focusing on letting go of the thoughts of scarcity, not trying to think abundant, and then you'll realize that the only thing that's left is true abundance that comes before any thought. True abundance, where you just see that the moment is abundant just by being present to the moment. Just by being present to the moment, not attaching to your thoughts, you will see that that is where the true abundance comes. True identity shifting is realizing that at a deeper level, no identity and no story is who you actually are. Because even if you're not confident right now, and then you become a confident person, both of these are just made up identities. They're completely made up human constructs that have nothing to do with who you are. But when you are unconsciously attached to that story, you believe that those constructs are who you are. So if you want to shift your identity, if you want to truly shift into the reality that you prefer, you have to just let go of all the identities. Realize that none of the identities are who you actually are at a deeper level, and who you actually are at a deeper level is nothing more than just consciousness, awareness, or the observing presence, observing the character of who you think you are. Okay, and even the words consciousness, awareness, witnessing presence, observer, watcher, seer, I can also call it the formless part of who you are. That sense of I before the I am. That sense of I exist before you tell yourself anything about who you think you are. But you have to realize that all of these words are not actually that thing. I'm just pointing you to that. And when you can become conscious of that thing that I'm pointing you to, then you will realize that you are no thing. When you realize that you are no thing, when you're nothing, no thing, then you can become everything, or the identity that you want to create. When you realize that either identity is created in your mind, then you're free to become any identity that you want with no resistance. Because right now, if you're attached to the old story and you try to write a new story, your ego is going to feel resistance because you're still attached to the old story. When you realize that both stories are made up, then you're not going to have resistance to telling yourself things like I am abundant or I'm a confident person, because you realize it's all just a game. You realize that it's all just made up. You realize that every story is a made up human construct. From this perspective, you can literally turn your life into a game. You can literally gamify your entire life and realize that your whole life is a made up story in your mind. Okay, there's reality, there's actual reality, and then there's the story that you tell yourself about reality. But that story is going to shape the reality that kind of comes into play, but your life is going to start to become more like a dream. Aaron Doughty always talks about this, that you will start to become more like in a dreamlike state when you can realize that you are not your ego identity. Because when you start to realize that you're not that ego identity, you create infinite possibility in your life because you create spaciousness. And so when it comes to shifting your identity, understand that at a deeper level, you are just the awareness. Create that spaciousness. Become aware of your current story and then let it go so that you can live into the new story and become who you're actually meant to be. And this starts with becoming present to the moment, becoming aware, becoming the observer of your thoughts rather than attaching to your thoughts, and becoming conscious of the unobserved mind, because that's the ego. The ego is only running your life when you are not in observation of your thinking. Because when you don't observe that thinking, you are attached to the thinking unconsciously. So the awareness and the observation of the thinking, which is also involving the story unconsciously that you're thinking about, is what creates that separation between you and the identity. From that space of spaciousness, then you can start to let go, because before you were attached to that story. When you become conscious of it, you let it go. And this begins with becoming present to the moment, living as the awareness, living as the observer, not living your life as a person, not living your life as a human, but as the being part of who you are. It's the human and the being. Most people miss the being part of who they are. They're just attached to the human. They're just attached to the person. The being part of you is the part that comes before the human, okay? It really should be being human, because you're not just a human, but there's the being that has a human body, okay? And when you can connect to that part of yourself, when you can become more present to the moment, when you can start connecting to who you actually are by becoming present to the moment, shifting your awareness, now you'll be able to shift your identity into who you actually wanna become. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button if you find this information useful. Once again, my mindfulness group coaching program is starting very soon. So if you want to be part of the class, hit the link that's in the description box of this video. If you want to become a private client, hit the link that's in the description box of this video, and you can apply for a free consultation by hitting that link. Have yourself a great day and see you in the next video.